On this video, I'm continuing to do what I started in the book of Hebrews, chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. We're looking at the Greek text, doing a grammatical analysis, followed by a commentary, along with Hebrew translation and grammatical analysis. So I'm at verse 3 at this point, and what I want to do is pick up where I left off, but do a brief review of where we've been. In many parts and in many ways, God of old, having spoken to the fathers in the prophets, in these last days spoke to us in the Son, whom he placed heir of all things, through whom also he made the ages. We talked about how there were many ways that God had spoken in the Hebrew prophets, many parts to it, many ways, sometimes in dreams, sometimes in direct communication, uh, like with Moses, and many parts. You had different periods and different parts, like the time of the promise, the time of law, etc. God having spoken to the fathers in the prophets, God spoke to the fathers, and we talked about the grammar a little bit. Lalesas is a aorist participle nominative masculine singular from laleo. Uh, so of old God having spoken uh, to the fathers and the prophets in these last days has spoken to us in the Son. And now we're in the last days. We're in the Messianic era, John, or the writer of Hebrews is saying, and he's now spoken in the Son. Elalesin, we said, was an aorist indicative active third person singular from laleo, has spoken in the Son. And then he begins to tell us in that singular way 7 things about the Son. Han ethiken cleranaman panton, whom he placed heir of all things. We saw ethiken is the aorist indicative active third person singular from tithemi, whom he placed heir of all things. D who, not only is he heir of all things, going back to Psalm 2, ask of me and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. But furthermore, he made the ages through Christ. Christ is the agent or the channel by which he made the ages, to Sionas, looking at the universe, by which Christ made the universe. And apoiesin, remember we said, is from poieo, aorist indicative active third person singular, through whom he made the ages. So we see 2 things about the Son. He is heir of all things, and secondly, he's the agent of creation. Through him, all things were made. Now we come to verse 3, and we'll continue at verse 3 then. Has on apaugasma tes doxes, kai karater tes hupastasa os autu, feron tetapanta to remati tes dunama os autu, katharisman ton hamartion poiesamenas ekathesin in dexia tes megalosunes in hupselois. That is, who being the radiance of the glory, the exact stamp of his essence. 2 more things stated about the Son. Has on apaugasma. Has is your relative pronoun, nominative masculine singular. Remember has ku ho han, and its nominative masculine, who being on is from a me, it's your present participle, nominative masculine singular. You think of your participle as on, antas, anti, anta, and so forth, who being the apaugasma, the radiance of the glory. Apaugasma, he radiates the glory. This word can also mean reflection, but I think a better rendition is he is the radiance of the glory. going back to um, the Hebrew Bible, where we have the glory of God filling the tent of meeting, the Mishkan. And Jesus, the writer of Hebrews, is saying, radiates the glory. We see the glory in Jesus today. Kai karakter tes hupastasa osautu. And the exact stamp, karakter, the exact stamp of his essence. In other words, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Jesus is full divinity, the exact stamp of the very essence of God, the writer of Hebrews is saying. So he radiates the glory, God's glory. He's the exact stamp of his essence. And then as I look at the Hebrew of that text, Ha-Elohim asher diber mekedem pa'amim rabot u'vafanim shonim el avotenu biyad ha-nevi'im diber elenu be'acharit hayamim ha'ela biyad beno. That is, God who spoke in past time in many ways and in many faces, really, uh, in many manners, I guess we could say, uh, in these and to the fathers by the hand of the prophets, spoke unto us in these latter days by the hand, or literally in his Son. Biyad Bano is the way that it's translated by David. And notice here, Diber, as we said, is a PL perfect third masculine singular from Dabar. Asher netano leyoresh kol, whom he gave him to be the heir of all things. And notice again here, Netanu is from Natan, the cow perfect third masculine singular, followed by the pronominal suffix in the O third masculine singular, which he gave him to uh, to heirship, to be heir. I'm understanding Yoresh as a cow participle masculine singular from Yarash, to be heir of all, and indeed Asabayado et ha-olamim. And indeed, he made by his hand, or through him, the olamim. Olamim meaning, I'm taking it to be the world, but the universe in the Hebrew here. Then going on, V'hu zohar kevodo, and he radiates, or he is radiating, soher kevodo. He radiates his glory from Sahar, and again, I'm understanding it as a cow a participle masculine singular from Zahar. He radiates his glory. B'tselem yeshuto v'nosecho bidvar geburato. That is, and who is the stamp. Selim. Uh, Selim is something like stamp, yeshuto, of his essence. So, in other words, Jesus bears the exact stamp of the very essence of God. And then, as we come to the next phrase in Greek, he not only radiates the glory, he's the exact stamp of his essence. Ferun tetapanta tohremati tes dunama osautu, bearing all things by the word of his power. He carries history along by a spoken word, and he holds the universe, bears it along by his word. Feron is a present participle nominative masculine singular from fero, bearing all things by the word. Here we have a dative of means, by means of the phremati, the word of his power. So by his powerful word, he is bearing all things alone. He not only is the radiance of the glory, the exact stamp of his essence, but he's bearing all things along by simply speaking. Tohremati tes dunamos, by his powerful word. And that's the fifth thing that the writer is saying. He's going to have seven uh, great truths about Christ. So going back to the Hebrew then, whom he gave to be the one who is heir of all things, indeed, he made by his hand or through him ha'olamim, v'hu zoher kevodo, and he radiates his glory, but Selem Yeshuto, and is the exact stamp of his essence, v'noseh ho bidvar gevurato, and he is bearing all things by the word of his power. Notice here, noseh is from nasa. It's the cow participle masculine singular. Notice the holding God, the O followed by the seri, indicative of the cow participial form, who is bearing all things bidvar gevurato, by the word of his power. So again, by his powerful word, davar gevurato, by the word, by his powerful word, he's bearing all things along. So I'm going to stop there. I'm just working my way through, looking at the Greek, looking at the Hebrew, looking at the grammar. And one of the things that I think we can say so far is that he's spoken in the Son, the writer of Hebrews is saying, who basically he said these things about the Son. He's heir of all things, a reflection back to Psalm 2. Ask of me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. And secondly, he made the Ionas, he made the world, he made the universe, all things. And he is the apaugasma. He radiates, he's the radiation of the glory of God, going back to the Hebrew Bible where the kavod, the glory of God, filled the tent of meeting, or the doxe in Greek. Jesus radiates that glory, and then he's the exact stamp, karater, of his very essence. And he's bearing all things along by just speaking. This could be history, it could also be the universe. He's speaking and holding it all together and bearing it along by his spoken word. What a beautiful truth the writer of Hebrews is presenting about Jesus Christ.